So in this video I wanted to talk a little bit about the XR750 cylinder heads. And you know, they've been going on for 40 years with these motorcycles, so the cylinder heads have changed a lot over the years. But this is where the magic happens, in the head. So I just wanted to kind of do a quick video of how the heads have changed and that sort of thing over the years. This is the original design of head. This is what they call the round port heads. They're round intake, round exhaust. And this came out in 1972. At that point it was just a single plug head. Later they came out with a dual plug. This one's being machined to have a dual plug in it. Now this head was all through the 70s, the sort of racing head that, you know, people just kept making little changes on it. This one's actually a really good one. It's being done by Hank Scott. You can see that Hank Scott Racing here. Did a whole bunch of work on it. I think he had some of the fastest bikes in the early 80s and late 70s was Hank Scott. This one's got titanium valves, a nice porting job, probably a really good flowing head. You can see it's been welded in here, and it's missing a fin in here. If you've got a head that that doesn't have any fins missing, and it's you know, it doesn't have any damage to it, chances are it was raced by a princess. It wasn't really raced. So anyway, this is a good solid head. All the way through the 80s they would have used that style. This would have been their intake manifold they used. It was flared out here. They just put a piece of rubber over here, and the carb went in, flowed in through. Later on, 89, they came out with the new motor. New motor had oval port heads. Flowed a little bit better yet. They had beryllium seats in them, so that they could run titanium valves. Now the reason for the beryllium seats, they're a little bit softer. Everybody thinks it's because they were softer, don't beat up the titanium valve as much, but it's actually because titanium reacts with everything, with ferrous metals, so and it gets what they call hydrogen embrittlement. So you can actually ruin a titanium valve just because it's mated up against the surface of a steel. Over time it'll weaken the valve and break it, so that's why they use beryllium in there. Anyway, these heads, what they started to do in the late 90s, they weren't making any more motors. So what they started to do was you buy a head, it came to you unmachined, just raw, and you were expected, they gave you this thing they called a head kit, your beryllium valves and valve seats. And they expected you to machine the thing yourself, port it yourself, and just make it work. So, and actually even the intake manifolds, you can see they don't have anything on the end. They expected you to weld a slub on here to hold your carburetor on and match it to your cylinder head. And, you know, they just were a really raw thing, and that was typical of Harley in the racing department. They were just giving you just the meat and potatoes parts, and you were expected to kind of turn it into a dinner. Anyway, this is, I just wanted to kind of give you a quick overview of the heads. That's what happened over 40 years, basically.